Hi, my name's Jake Bass. I am a producer, composer. We're here at FBT Studios, and this is DimLitPath.
First of all, thanks for thanks for the interview, man. This is awesome. I was not expecting to branch out so quickly. Going back way back in time, can you tell us about your early years, childhood? What got you into where you are now?
Okay, well, I have always grown up in a musical environment. My dad and uncle are musicians and producers as well. And so when I was a kid, I would be in the studio with them almost every single day. They built their very first recording studio over on 8 Mile back in 1993. So I was a toddler, and my dad would take me there every single day because my family couldn't afford daycare, so he had to take me. And so I would sit there as a toddler watching all these different artists and different musicians come in and out of the studio and just, not knowing it, but I was absorbing everything at a very early age. And so music is literally all I know. And I happen to love it too, which is great. And so it's been a unique upbringing, that's for sure, but I wouldn't have it any other way because it's something that I'm passionate about, and when I can make an impact on people, it's the best thing in the world.
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah.
So, being a kid growing up in this environment, was there like a role or something you played at a young age that got you into a studio?
Yeah, so even though I was in the studio all the time, my parents didn't know if I was going to become a musician, you know. But when I was about 8 years old, my parents got me a drum set for Hanukkah. And um, I remember I was so excited about it because it was this beautiful blue color drum set made for kids, but it was still very awesome. And they were like, see if you like it, see if you could play something. And so I hopped on it, and it was terrible. I was just making noise, obviously, because I was only 8. But my dad gave me a drum pattern to play. And I was like, okay, let me see if I can repeat it. And I couldn't. I didn't know what I was doing. But apparently 30 minutes later, when my parents went upstairs and I was still in the basement messing around, I started playing a pattern that was way more rhythmic and way more syncopated than the original pattern he gave me. And my dad raced downstairs and he was like, what was that? I was like, what, this? And he was like, okay, you got it. You've got the bug. And I just started learning everything by ear from then. I started with drums, then I did piano, guitar, bass, percussion. And because of that, when I would go into the studio at that point, I was like, Dad, can I try and record this? I've got this idea. And he'd be like, yeah, this is how you do it. This is how you record. This is how you sequence. And I was like, oh, yeah, this is it for me. I love this.
That's that's awesome. I recently bought I have a 7-year-old who I bought him
I do too.
just a snare drum.
Yeah.
Just to see, we're trying to get him into something. And
Yeah.
we have a keyboard, we have a
Yeah.
snare drum now. My older daughters play viola and violin up at Flint.
Oh, nice.
To the music.
Yeah, yeah.
We are not musicians in
Yeah.
any way, so getting them involved, we know how important it is.
Yeah.
To have music in your life. So
For sure.
it's pretty cool. But yeah, the snare drum.
Yeah.
I can picture your parents at a young age hearing that drum all the time.
Yeah.
I can hear it all the time in my house. So.
Yeah, yeah, definitely annoying at first, but once I started to understand what I was doing, it was like, okay, this is not so bad.
Yeah. So you're 8 years old. You're learning how to play drums. You played a bunch, or you're starting to learn how to do other instruments as well. Was there that gap between that young age to throughout your high school years? Was there something in particular that stood out that you were like, I want to be in the studio every single day?
Yeah. Yeah, when I started writing music of my own, when I was just about going into high school, I started collaborating with other people and writing lyrics and coming up with just instrumental tracks for other people to write to. And once that happened, once somebody started rapping or singing onto my music and it became a song, I was like, oh my, I know how to make this song better. I want to tell them how to do this or help them say this word differently. And it was just like an innate thing in me that I was like, I know how to see this from start to finish. And I just wanted to write and produce songs from there on out.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, that's cool. Was there any? I mean, seeing that you had family so involved in a studio,
Yeah.
was there any pushback from them in how involved you were trying to become?
So there was no pushback. The situation that I was in was obviously not normal because at that time, when I was about 10 years old or so, is when the artist that my dad and uncle were producing at that time blew up. And that artist is Eminem. And so we all were thrown into this whirlwind of what is this life? This is insane. Like, going back and forth to California and then selling the 8 Mile studio and being able to start to build a studio like this, which is what they did when I was 14 years old, is when they started building this studio. And so I got to see it all in real time from nothing, and which made me appreciate it even more and made me want to do it even more because I saw that it was possible. Um, it just was something that I knew um, I needed to do. That's just who I was. And they were like, as long as you stick with school, you can do this. That's what it was. There was no pushback on the music part of it or being a musician. It was make sure you're still getting A's and finishing high school and going to college. Study music if you want to, study something else if you want to, but you have to achieve that and accomplish that and still do the music thing. And thankfully I was able to do all that, and I did study music composition and I graduated college, and I learned a whole lot.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, I
Yeah.
was just going to ask, did you end up going to college
Yeah,
for this? So
I did. And that's where everything came back to bite me as far as learning by ear. I had to learn theory and learn to read music because I didn't do any of that. My dad and uncle still don't know how to read music. And so I was like, if I want to be a well-rounded musician and producer, I want to learn those skills.
yeah.
I had to start from square one and learn piano the right way, and but I wouldn't change it. I loved being able to learn it naturally because that's where the feeling comes from.
Other than your dad and your uncle, did you have any mentors along the way that just kind of kept you moving forward with everything?
I thankfully had some really good counselors in school, one of which I am actually working on a record with, which is just full circle mind blowing. Shout out to Daryl Beebe. He was my counselor in high school, and he was like, "I know this is who you are. Go for it." And he's also a phenomenal saxophonist. And so now I got him on a record that's coming out soon, and it's just so special.
Yeah, that's cool.
So he was definitely a huge mentor in that. And I had some teachers as well back in the day that believed in what I was doing and allowed me to, write songs and not, get in trouble for it
Yeah.
in the hallway and whatnot. So yeah.
It sounds like, I mean, I'm not trying to play it down, but it sounds like you had a pretty, you had it like there for you. It was just there for the taking. Everything kind of came to you. Your dad and your uncle had the studio going. Was there any setbacks that really like kind of made you think, wonder, is this right? Is there anything like that?
Yeah, definitely, definitely. When I was at that age, when I started at 8 years old, 9 years old, right out the gates, uh, I felt like, okay, I know who I am. I know what I want to do. I'm going to show everybody what I could do. And I did my elementary school talent show, and played drums for everybody. And uh, I had an original song that me and my dad had put together, and we had this whole performance ready to go, and it was going to be my debut basically. And he got the call to go to California to do the record deal for Eminem. And so he couldn't do my talent show with me. I had to do it by myself. And I was like, how am I going to do this? I've never done this before. And, obviously I didn't have a choice. And I was like, I'm going to pull together and I'm going to do it. I'm going to go out there and perform for the first time in front of the school and everything. And I was so amped and so excited. And I got up on stage, curtains open up. I'm on my drum set, ready to rock. And I start playing, and the entire drum set collapsed. And it fell over. And I was humiliated. I was like, what is this? I don't know what to do. I don't even know what to feel. I've never felt these things before. And then the curtain closed slowly. And I was like, oh my, this, like, maybe this is not who I am. And like, even though I was 8 years old and just starting, I was like, well, this is crushing.
No, I mean, as a child, you remember.
Yeah, it was traumatic. It was traumatic. And then I had a really good buddy who was on the side of the stage and was like, you're going back out there. I'm like, how am I supposed to go back out there? The drum set collapsed. It doesn't even hold itself up anymore. And he was like, I'm going to hold it up there for you while you play. And I was like, are you kidding? Like, you don't need to do that. It's over. My dream is crushed. And he's like, no, we're going back out there. And so a few minutes later, he went out, held it up, curtains opened. I played the whole song and finished it. And I was like, you know what? In my career, if I'm going to be a musician and I'm going to take it to the stage, it'll never be as bad as this. Like, if this is the start of it, doesn't matter what happens. Nothing is going to be as embarrassing or as humiliating as this. And so that was a challenge right out the gate. And then later years, when I met Sean Forbes, and he was one of the first artists that I started to produce and put music out there. Him being a deaf artist, that was not an easy thing, by no means. Every single person said that's not possible. And we proved everybody wrong.
Yeah.
Everybody. So yeah, I mean, there's been a lot of challenges and stuff like that, for sure.
So you mentioned earlier. You mentioned that everything was just kind of coming to you, and like the mixing and sequencing. And was there a specific moment or time when it just all clicked?
Yeah. I think it was probably when I was 13 or 14, and I made a 5-minute song that had structure. Like, I had a verse and I had a chorus, I had a change, and I played every single instrument. And I was like, wow, like, this feels really good. And when I played it for other people, they were like, yeah, this is not normal. Like, keep doing this. And that was shortly before I was with Sean. And when they were finishing up this studio here, I started out here just as a runner, getting everybody food, all the rappers food and stuff like that, running the 7-Eleven and whatnot. And in the basement, we had a little setup. And so I would go down there and mess around while my dad and uncle were up here working with the biggest artists in the world. I was just trying to figure out, how do I get upstairs and do that? And so it clicked at that age, and it, it didn't stop.
Yeah. Yeah. So what was that like? Being in the basement, hearing, what was coming out of the studio.
Yeah.
What was that like?
Man, it was surprisingly normal, and because I heard a lot of the records first before a lot of other people, even in the circle, obviously before the world, because my dad at the beginning was extremely an integral part of Marshall's music. You know, Em was doing the lyrics, my dad was doing the music all the time. They were in the studio every single day. And so I would be here because even as I got older and could drive myself, I still wanted to be around it and learn and absorb. And that's what I did. And so I got to hear like, you know, things that worked, things that didn't work, you know, all the messiness, but it was every day an absolute masterclass watching it.
So how old were you when they produced Infinite?
Oh, so Infinite, I was 6 or 7 years old.
Okay.
And I was like, I don't know what hip hop is, but I love the raps and I love the beat and like everything was just feeling good to me. You know, I didn't fully understand what he was saying, you know, as a 6 or 7 year old, but it still felt like great music to me. And everything that they were putting together, you know, unfortunately, no one felt the way that I felt in 1996 about that project. But that's what made it so special 20 years later when I had the opportunity to co-produce the remix of it, the anniversary, and put that out into the world, and to play those parts, and to still have my dad and uncle around for that to you know, oversee that for a second time was very, very cool.
Yeah, it comes full circle.
It absolutely came full circle to dive into the tapes that were from 1995, 1996 that I remember as a kid seeing them record for the first time and then hearing it again was like it was meant to be in a way. And when I came to them with that fresh version of it, it was like, yeah, this has to be it. Like it just feels right. Like it wouldn't have worked if somebody else did it.
I remember being when was it, 96? I would have been 10 in 96.
Yeah, yeah.
And you know, I don't recall the song initially.
Yeah,
until
I'm sure.
what was it, the Slim Shady LP came out.
When
Then the past
it was the major stuff. Yeah.
I remember getting into it as a teenager though, and I remember like finding, oh, there's an older album.
Yeah, it's a gem, absolute gem.
Yeah, I remember Infinite and you know what it played when I was younger.
Yeah.
You know how it played into my life. But yeah, it's you know coming full circle now.
Yeah,
the room.
Absolutely.
A room.
Yeah.
To it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Pretty cool.
I know, and then it's quite special to see that people love it so much when even now, and now we're almost 30 years later. Like it's quite amazing to see like when something's special and unique, like there's no denying it.
Yeah.
You know, but back then nobody believed, you know. No, nobody believed in him. Nobody believed in my dad and uncle. You know, family members. Everybody. It was like, what are you doing? Like at some point, like you got to get real. And you know, thankfully, they were able to prove the world wrong. But my dad was 38 when that happened. You know, it was a long journey. Marshall was signed to them for 3 years before Dre signed him. And put 2 records out. You know, so but now everybody with this, so it's okay. And that, you know, that's a huge part of me continuing the legacy here and protecting the legacy is because I got to witness a lot of that. You know, more than I should have, but you know, it's important. Yeah.
I mean, it is though. It's an education that you know you didn't necessarily sign up for, but to be a part of it.
Yeah.
I mean, you grew up fast and you learned at an early age. And to have something like that is definitely, you know, it can change. It can change you. It can change, you know, those around you. It definitely plays a huge part having those tools and everything, right?
Yeah. And that's the thing, like my dad always was like, you got to see the sacrifice and the hard work, you know, at an early age and the struggles. You know, before I was born, he was still struggling, obviously, and whatnot. But once he was able to have all the tools that he could dream of and have them here, like all this, it was like, you know, make the most of it. You know, what can you do with all of these tools? And that's why I was like, you know what, I'm going to try this, I'm going to try that, I'm going to work with these people. And, you know, I just kept it trickling from there. you know, because they started with these two speakers here and a couple of analog gear pieces over there, and that was it. And so, um, you know, I find it so fascinating, and it's very special, and it's important to me. This is all a part of the story and my story, and I got to keep it alive.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. So, how would you define success, and how has that changed for you over time?
Great question. I think that success is not just one thing for everybody. It depends on who you are and you know what you see success as. You know, for me is being able to do this, which is what I love, and being able to be with my family. I've got two daughters and a wife who is absolutely supportive and incredible and allows me to be me and supports me as I am. I mean, I've been with her for forever. We've been together 18 years now, and we met when we were 9. But having close relationships and having people that you can just be yourself with, and being able to go home to your kids and being able to feed them and eat together and spend time together, that is success.
Yeah.
Like that's what's most important is having your people and your family. Without that, you know, for me, then what's the point? You know, so having the balance of all of that, being able to have the balance, that's the success right there. Because I tour a lot, and when I'm away, that's when it's put into perspective for me. Um, and that's hard.
Yeah.
You know, I'm like, I don't want to do this sometimes. That's what I want to do. You know, so yeah.
No, I know the feeling. Being away, there's been times when I leave for a week or so at work. I mean, it's might be a couple times a year, but yeah, it's tough. It's definitely tough on the family, tough on your wife.
And also, if you could have a you know, amazing health, that's it.
Yeah.
That's number one right there.
What keeps you grounded, and what keeps you motivated?
Yeah, I think remembering everything that it took to get here and to be able to have the privilege to be in a facility like this, um, that keeps me grounded big time, because I know that this didn't just come, this didn't just happen. Like everything was built one by one from nothing. Um, and there were times even back then where it was like, this is it, nothing can be better than this.
Yeah.
Um, you know, but it's what I make of it. And you know, I never forget where I came from, because I have actual memories of that life, which was completely different. And, you know, having to eat 7-Eleven sandwiches was, you know, nothing to me. Like it was just an amazing bonding time with my dad to be able to just have, you know, one-on-one time hanging out and whatnot, and but not really understanding, like, we have to eat these sandwiches because we can't afford to go to a restaurant. You know, and I never forget that, because that is the truth. Like that, you can't forget where you came from and get lost, because um, it's important to remember.
So, do you have a piece of advice
Hmm.
that you could share, that maybe something that you've kept in,
Hmm.
that you always go back to, or something that someone's told you?
Mm. Advice? You mean like
Words of wisdom.
words of wisdom? Okay. Uh, let's see. Words of wisdom for the general audience out there. Be kind, be nice, listen, and be patient. You never know what somebody's going through. And then for the musical people out there, um, don't ever stop, no matter what. The world is changing every single day. The industry is changing every single day. If you want to achieve something in the music world, try and find a way towards that. Your path is going to be different than somebody else's path. My path is different than my dad's path. My path is different than the people that I work with sometimes. But I know if I want to be this type of producer, this type of composer, I've got to keep going this way. And if somebody says no, it does not matter. I find another way. And you guys got to do the same thing. Find a way.
Yeah, yeah.
So last question I got for you. What's next for you?
What's next for me? I am producing a lot of records. I just finished a smooth jazz album with my dad. We're doing a father-son project, which has never been done before, so I'm looking forward to that. I've got a bunch of artists under my label. We're putting their albums together right now. And I'm producing D12's project right now. We're putting music together, which we haven't done that in a long, long time, and so we're looking forward to that. And we've got some shows coming up soon that we're going to be locking down, and that's going to be great to hit the road again as Dirty Jake with those guys. And I've got some other shows with some of my other artists, and yeah. Bunch of sessions here. Just going to keep it going. Music all day, every day. That's it.
That's awesome. Yeah. Well, yeah. Thank you for sitting down with me. Thank you.
Thank you
For this interview. This is definitely eye-opening for me to see. The Logic board itself. The last
yeah.
One of the last interviews I did, Misty had said. The term SSL. I'm like, oh, what does that mean?
Yeah.
Sitting here and seeing it in person, it's pretty cool. It's a nice studio you have.
Thank you.
Definitely enjoyed your story. Where you came from, where you are now, and what you got going forward. So thanks for the time.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Thank you.
End it there.
Beautiful.